Hello there everybody! Bonna here, and this was supposed to be one of those old school RuneScape free-to-play to bond videos, where I create a brand new account and challenge myself to earn money through free-to-play money-making methods to afford a bond. Spoiler, it's not. Instead, this is a video showcasing one man's struggle. A small woodland creature's journey into self-discovery and the ultimate realization that free-to-play money-making methods in RuneScape fucking suck. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as you watch my slow, spiraling descent into madness in an attempt to make a video that cost me more than 20 hours of my real life to record before eventually giving up and scrapping the entire idea. I mean, just look at all the video clips and notes that I've made along the way. I think this video deserves a like just for the dedication alone, don't you? Wink wink. Now before we proceed, I need to explain some things to those of you watching that might not be all that familiar with the game. In Old School RuneScape, you have the option of either being free-to-play or a member of the game. Free-to-play players have quite a few restrictions in the skills they train, places they travel, items they can acquire, and gear they can wear. Membership removes all of these barriers and allows you to access the full game in all of its glory. Membership can either be purchased using real money in the form of a monthly subscription fee, or a player can choose to use in-game gold to buy a bond, which grants 14 days worth of membership. This was the initial goal for this video. Make a free-to-play account and earn enough money to buy a bond. I had no idea how miserable this journey was going to be. Our journey begins where every old school RuneScape player's journey begins. Tutorial Island! Basically, it's a very linear island designed to teach you some of the basic elements of the game and get you accustomed to the UI. I buzzed through this introductory shit faster than Ozzy could snort a line of fire ants and quickly found myself at the Castle of Lumbridge. Now upon creating a brand new account, there are a few hurdles one must take in order to begin truly making money. You see, there's this place called the Grand Exchange located to the north in the city of Varric. Thousands upon thousands of players sell their crafted, looted, or stolen goods in this giant auction house, and it's imperative that I unlock access to this as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, botting has been a very large issue in Old School RuneScape for a lot of years, and because of that, certain restrictions have been placed on new accounts that prevents them from accessing the Grand Exchange until they meet certain requirements. These requirements include achieving 10 quest points, 100 total levels, and achieving 20 hours of in-game time. My first goal on the account was to complete some of the simpler quests that didn't require much skilling or involve combat. I started with the Restless Ghost because it's a really easy quest and gives some nice prayer experience. During the quest, I picked up some leather gloves, and on my way to one of the objectives, I spotted some ashes from a player burning logs. Ashes are a fantastic moneymaker early on, so I took a little time to gather them along the way. I yoinked some leather boots from the nearby Wizard's Tower and returned to Lumbridge to complete the quest. Next, I started the Cook's Assistant quest, where I've been tasked with gathering an egg, flour, and milk to help out the castle's personal porn star in his endeavors to bake a cake. During the quest, I found some more ashes, and you're damn right I shoved them straight into my backpack. I also spotted an imp, which I decided needed to be slaughtered for the off chance it dropped some anal beads that I could sell in the Grand Exchange. Spoiler, it did, and it was as black as its soul. While I was passing through, I decided to start the Sheep Shearer quest, which requires me to shear some sheep for this guy. I walked a little farther north to gather an egg, ground some flour inside the windmill, and milked the living shit out of this cow. On my way back to the castle, I sheared all the sheep I needed to for the other quest, as I knew the next step was to spin all of the wool into balls of wool using the spinning wheel inside the castle. I quickly turned in the Cook's Assistant quest for a less than pleasing reward, spun all of the wool into sweet balls of floof, and returned to the farmer to complete the other quest. Next, I wanted to complete the Witch's Potion quest, which requires a piece of burnt meat, an onion, and an eye of newt. I decided to loot some raw beef from nearby players killing cows and cooked it all inside the Lumbridge castle. I kept one piece of burnt meat for the quest, and kept all the other cooked meat for another plan I had in the near future. On my way to the quest, I spotted another f***ing imp that had the audacity to exist near my presence, so I made quick work of him with my sword. Next, I stopped in a nearby shop to buy an Eye of Newt and this sweet wizard hat. I picked an onion in a nearby field, killed a rat for its tail, and completed the Witch's Potion quest in a matter of seconds. Then, if you could even imagine it, another imp dared to squeeze oxygen into its worthless lungs while in my vicinity, so I had to put an end to it. Fortunately for us, it dropped the Mind Talisman worth a decent chunk of change on a GE. So at this point in the video, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Bunna, this is a money-making video where so far you've made no money. Well, you see, it's more about the journey and not so much the destination. Which is what I've been telling myself ever since I decided to record this footage, and I'm sticking to it so I don't feel bad. Moving on! Next, I started the Ernest the Chicken quest, which required me to steal a shovel, poison some fish, grab the skeleton's rubber tube, and solve a puzzle for an oil can that was virtually impossible when I was 10 years old. These levers still haunt my nightmares. Flash forward a few minutes and the quest is complete. Easy peasy. On my way back to Lumbridge, I committed some more imp genocide for no apparent reason, and talked to an otherwise horrifying character that would teleport me to the Stronghold of Security. The Stronghold of Security is another linear tutorial-esque based destination that asks a player a bunch of generic simple-minded questions about account security. It's basic shit that everyone should know, and honestly, if you think clicking on a spam email from an external company will result in in-game gold, you're a f***ing moron. I quickly made my way through all the different levels of the Stronghold to loot the chests in the center for increasing amounts of gold. I did take some damage along the way, and the cooked beef that I brought along came in handy. Now I could have stopped at the third chest, as 10,000 GP was the full amount of gold you can earn from here, but I needed what was in that final chest. An item so important that I risked my life for it multiple times. And that item was the colorful boots. They looked amazing and would keep my feet quite warm on my future endeavors. After acquiring the most overpowered item in the game, I left the Stronghold and made my way to Varric. The last quest that I had to complete to meet the trading restrictions was Romeo and Juliet. For this quest, I needed to help Juliet fake her death to be with Romeo. So I picked some fake death berries, killed another imp because f*** that imp, talked to the father of a church, crafted a death potion in Walter White's tool shed, and completed a quest in record time. Now that the quests were complete, I decided it was time to finally start making some money. The trade restrictions were still in place until I achieved 100 total levels and played for 20 hours, but these trade restrictions don't impact every item in the game, so I could still trade some things. I sold the ashes and the mine talisman that I looted to get a starting cash stack. Next, I set course for Port Sarim, where I could start my first moneymaker of the series. I planned on buying loads of fishing nets from the store for 5 GP each, banking them in the deposit box on the dock, and then listing them on the Grand Exchange for 900 GP each. There were always players out there that would overpay for even the most basic of items because they're in a hurry and have a lot of cash to spare, and I planned on capitalizing on this. If all goes according to plan, this would net us over 398k. While these nets were selling, I decided to get level 8 attack on the training dummy so I could equip steel equipment in the near future. Next, I decided to chop down some trees, as I needed the total levels anyways to freely trade in the GE, and I figured I could always sell the logs afterwards for some profit. I hit level 15 woodcutting pretty early on and was able to start chopping oak trees. Flash forward some more time to me hitting 30 woodcutting with lots of logs in the bank to show for it, although I couldn't sell any of these yet due to the trade restrictions. Next, I thought it was best that I start trading some magic, as I thought it was going to be crucial for some future moneymakers and would make traveling around a lot easier. I bought myself a fire staff from Zaf's store, grabbed some wizard gear from the GE, and journeyed into the Edgeville dungeon. At the end of this dungeon are hill giants that can be easily safe spotted, making them a great monster to train on. They also drop big bones that can be buried for prayer experience. I hit level 13 magic fairly quickly, which allowed me to upgrade to a fire spell that hit much harder than the marshmallow I was hitting with before. A few minutes later I hit the 100 total level mark, which crossed another objective off of the trading restrictions list. Now all that was left was 20 hours of playtime, which I had been steadily working my way towards during all these grinds. The next morning I logged on to resume my magic training all the way up to level 25, which was a milestone in its own accord because it unlocked a Varrock teleport that would make trading a lot easier. Now that I had this teleport at my disposal, I decided to try some other moneymakers to, actually accomplish what this series was supposed to be about. After returning to the GE, I noticed that none of my nets have sold, which was both unfortunate and rather heartbreaking. I resorted to collecting some ashes around the GE for some more cash to restock on supplies. My next moneymaker was going to be collecting red spider eggs in the Varrock sewers. I simply had to pick up 2 of the spawns of the spider eggs on the floor and hop worlds until I had a full inventory. The problem was that these spiders absolutely f***ed me in the ass. I mean, they slapped my biscuit something fierce, so I had to leave pretty early on to approach this method a little bit differently. I sold the eggs that I picked up and bought some food and steel equipment with the profits. I quickly trained my defense up to level 5 so that I could wear the new equipment and dove back into the sewers for round 2. This time around went much smoother and I was able to get a full inventory of eggs before I teleported out. I sold the eggs for a decent profit and was proud of myself for the progress so far. While this method was profitable, it was very time consuming, dangerous, and all around not worth it at this low of a level, so I decided to move on to a different method. I journeyed back to Port Sarim with all of my newfound cash to buy as many feathers as I could, as this was hopefully going to be a quick profit on the GE. It turns out that these things are affected by the trading restrictions, so f*** me, there goes my entire cash stack, and now I'm back in the sewers picking up goddamn spider eggs just so I can afford to live in this godforsaken place! So I decided to head to Lumbridge to check the age of my account, and it turns out it's only been 6 hours and 45 minutes. Either I should be proud of what I've achieved in such little time, or worried because I could have swore it's been a week already. Regardless, I decided to keep pushing ahead. I wanted to pursue a different path of money-making at this point by training up some crafting. Rather than buying the things that I needed from the GE, I thought that it would be beneficial to train up my melee stats in the process of training crafting. So I started a cow massacre that this side of the River Salve has never seen before and tanned all of the hide in Kharid. I bought some thread from the nearby crafting shop and thought of another on-the-spot moneymaker that might help us out, which is buying crafting molds from the shop and reselling them on the GE. I banked a few inventories worth before moving on. I crafted all of the tanned leather into various items all the way up to level 20 crafting. This was a level that I was looking for that would hopefully be our saving grace for the video. I went back to the GE to list our various crafting molds we purchased and started to invest in our new money-making method, which was crafting sapphire rings. I bought the gold bars for 79 GP each, and the uncut sapphires for 347 GP each. After crafting the rings at the Edgeville furnace, I returned to the GE and sold them each for 466 GP, meaning that I made about 40 GP per ring. This was not the result that I was hoping for. Maybe in large quantities this would work out, or if I listed them for a much higher price and waited for a full week to slowly sell, but bitch, ain't nobody got time for that! So after this less than desirable training method of crafting sapphire rings, I decided to try combining water and flour to make pizza bases. It's simple, easy, and could potentially turn a huge profit. Flour cost 80 GP each, and jugs of water were 54 GP each. I was able to sell these pizza bases for 160 GP each, meaning that I made about 26 gold per one. This was also less than desirable, but I stuck with it for about 250 pizza bases and ended up with a cash stack of around 29k. So at this point in recording, I was losing some momentum and becoming discouraged. Every method that I tried was very little GP per hour, and an in-game bond cost more than hiring Daniel Craig to actually play Bond. But I couldn't give up. Not yet. I went back to crafting sapphire rings with the intention of hitting level 27 crafting, which unlocked the ability to craft emerald rings. After selling the sapphire rings that I made, I bought the necessary resources to start crafting emerald rings. Gold bars were 81 gold each, and emeralds were about 495 gold each. I was able to sell the rings for 655 GP each, meaning that I profited about 79 gold per ring. If you're not keeping up with the math, picking up f***ing ashes was more profitable than this. Literally, ashes are worth more than rings after deducting the cost of resources. How is this even possible? So next I decided to place an order for some steel plate skirts on the GE, as I could buy them cheaply on there and then resell them to a merchant in Kharid for an easy profit in the near future. While they were buying up, I decided to train my magic level up so I could access some other money-making methods. I decided to complete the Corsair Curse quest to gain access to an underground dungeon where I could kill Ogress warriors. Their drop table was much better than the Hill Giants and would allow me to essentially train magic for free. After spending what felt like an eternity down here, the steel plate skirts finally finished buying. I claimed them from my bank and traveled to Kharid to sell them for a total profit of about 13,000 GP. While that might not seem like a small number, keep in mind that these took hours to buy and there's a buy limit of 125 plate skirts per day, so this wasn't the most reliable moneymaker. So at this point we're spinning in circles, people. I've tried a handful of different methods and nothing seems to be working out. But just like before, I wasn't giving up yet. I still had a few tricks up my sleeve. I bought some maple longbows from the GE and traveled to the town of Remington where I could sell these to the shop for more money than I paid for them. I also decided to buy some steel arrows from the shop with the intention of reselling them on the GE for a higher amount until I realized that I was paying 12 GP per arrow and they only resold for 7 GP per arrow. Get the f*** out of here! So I decided to check my account's age again and realized I'm only 13 hours and 42 minutes old. How on earth is that even possible? I have gray hair! So I headed back to the Ogress Warriors and reached level 40 magic. After selling all the items for the Ogresses, I had about 127k total GP on the account. I decided to make a bunch more emerald rings, which brought us up to a total of 135k. Next, I decided to try buying some thread from the crafting store in Kharid for 2 GP each, and resell it on the GE for 6 GP each, which technically worked, but I hated my life after doing so. I decided to buy some more maple longbows from the GE and sell to the shop in Remington, snagging myself a sweet cape along the way by straight up murdering a man in daylight. After I finished, I decided to check my account's age once again, and holy sweet dick biscuit, we're 20 hours old, people! This means that the trading restrictions are officially lifted, and we can finally sell the logs and feathers inside our bank. While those were selling, I decided to put my newfound magical abilities to the test and try out a new money-making method. Telegrabbing nature runes in the wilderness. Now the wilderness is a dangerous place where PvP is fully enabled, meaning that if another player wanted to, they could kill me and take everything on my character. But that was a chance I was willing to take. I bought 100 law runes and headed north towards the demonic ruins where the nature runes could be found. Once I got there, I started a timer and proceeded to telegrab the runes and hop worlds until I exhausted all of my law runes, save one for the teleport back to Varric. It took me about 15 minutes to complete the trip, and I made about 60k profit from the endeavor. While this method was successful, it was very dangerous, click-intensive, and just annoying. There was no way I could keep this up as a moneymaker. So at this point, the tank was running on empty. As a last-ditch effort, I decided to buy some empty jugs from the GE and fill them with water in Falador to resell them for a much higher amount than I bought them for. I was able to make about 37.1k in 15 minutes by doing this, however it was still way short of where I needed to be money-making wise. The last two methods that I tried was buying wizard mind bombs and sapphires from different shops in Falador to resell them on the GE, but the profit from doing this was very minimal. So, after well over 20 hours of in-game time and dozens of different money-making methods, I ended up with 314k GP on the account. Now, could I achieve a bond if I kept this up? Sure. Would I keep this up? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Are you out of your mind? The best money-making method I had was telegrabbing nature runes, which profited about 60k in 15 minutes. Given that the price of a bond was around 5.5 million GP at the time of recording this, it would have taken me 92 full trips, or approximately 23 hours, to get the GP necessary for a bond. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I actually have a fucking life that I enjoy living, and I wasn't gonna put any more effort into making this happen. Why in the world would anyone play the game like this to earn a bond? Hell, even if you had a minimum wage job, you could afford the cost of membership in 2 hours' time and have enough money left over to buy an energy drink for the impending grind. Or a noose, if you put yourself through the free-to-play money-making methods like I just did. So that's it, everybody. That's the end of the video. What started out as a very optimistic approach to the free-to-play version of the game turned into a complete shit show by the end. Some might call my actions quitting, but I like to think of my actions as giving up and never returning to this video idea ever again. So with all of this being said, thank you so much for watching! If you enjoyed watching me suffer, please be sure to leave this video a like down below, subscribe to the channel with notifications on to stay up to date on all of my latest content, and please keep leaving me comments because they warm my little Bonahart. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.